Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch. We got some updates for you. I know my desk probably looks a little bit off. That's what I meant in the title by a slightly different setup because while you guys can't see it very well just from this angle, my office has been completely cleaned up and redesigned. Not in this angle. This is probably the most similar thing, but everything else about my office has changed. I think I'll do a vlog about it later, but I have my wife to thank for that because obviously in quarantine we have way more free time now. So we were able to go through the closet I have with the Tesla flag, which before this basically had everything I wasn't using just kind of dumped in like in a dumpster, and I would just throw everything in there. There was no organization of any kind. It was just wires upon boxes, all just stacked up upon themselves. And I was like, if it's out of sight, out of mind, right? So I just had it stuffed in there, and we finally went through it all. We're donating a bunch of the cables to places that can recycle them because we don't want to contribute to e-waste, and we're getting rid of a bunch of stuff that we weren't using. I know because it's been in the closet for 9 months and I haven't touched it. And the office looks incredibly minimal and clean now. Like there's just the essentials. I've even gotten rid of a lot of Apple boxes. I know that freaks everybody out. ZWAB says he still goes outside. That's fine, just don't be close to people. Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Please practice social distancing, please. Overachiever, thank you for the 8 bits. Welp wrote, Welp, looks like you got your wish of a wireless charging iPad. Not quite. We haven't got there quite yet, but the smart connector charging, while it is not super fast, is about as close as we're going to get to an inductive charger. Let's see. Great innovation. Thank you. Yes, it's an incredibly innovative office space. Let's see. How do you like the new iPad Pro 2020? I did my review on it. It's still right here, and it's kind of frustrating because this I've decided to return. I don't know if you guys caught that video, but I'm not keeping it just because I agree that while the changes are appreciative and I'm glad they released this iPad, they do not warrant the extra price for me coming from a 2018 iPad Pro. And also, I'm counting on Worldwide Developers Conference having a lot of iPad OS redesign or iPad OS Pro apps, and in that case, I want to make sure I have the biggest display possible. So I'm keeping the 12.9, and I felt like a lot of the reasons I wanted to keep this iPad were not really specific to this iPad. They were all specific towards the 11-inch form factor being interesting to me. And I used this for a solid week, and then once I went back to the old iPad, suddenly this one felt new again because I hadn't used it in a while. So it felt like refreshing to go back, and that's how I knew, okay, this is a honeymoon phase. I will get used and accustomed to this one, and then I won't utilize the new features. So it's kind of just a waste of money to hang on to it. But I did, however, get the keyboard case, which I wanted to talk about. No, it's not the Apple Magic Keyboard case. I would have brought that up, and I probably would have live streamed that to YouTube or made a dedicated video if I did get that in the mail. But this thing sucks royally. This thing is so terrible that they did not want to put their own branding anywhere on it, which I'm just now noticing. I don't think any part of this, so it opens like a laptop, it can hold itself on its own, but nowhere on here do they put their brand. Like, there's no logo of any kind, which is kind of fascinating. But it's compatible with the new iPad Pro, so I'll show you guys what I mean by how crappy it is, but let me catch up here. Let's say, after augmented reality, what do you think Apple could do? Oh, geez, augmented reality, we're not even there yet. That's going to take a while before the glasses are ready and such, but man, I don't know. Overachiever, thank you for the bits. 5 bits from Scribble Nerd, appreciate that. 100 bits from Expos One. I was the one who sent you both the original iPhone 3 and iPhone 3 boxes. Glad to see them up on the wall. Okay, yes, the original boxes of stuff I still have. So some Apple boxes are not on the wall, but rare stuff I will hold on to. I want people to know because I know a lot of you guys have sent me boxes in the past. Like the ones that are really, really rare and hard to find, I keep those. The ones I'm throwing out are the ones I have like 10 duplicates of. Right? Like, I don't need 10 AirPods boxes, or I don't need 8, like, budget iPad boxes. Like, they're not even good looking. I'm just hanging on to the exclusive stuff, and I'll either put them on the wall or whatnot, but yeah. Thank you for the support, sending those, Expos One. Appreciate it. 14 bits from CWABs. The 11-inch can be used as a proper tablet. The 13-inch is a portable monitor at that point. Not if it's going to be used as a 2-in-1. If we're going to be going back and forth to tablet and laptop experience, then 13 inches is actually pretty reasonable in my opinion. And Scribble Nerd YouTube, thank you for Twitch Prime subbing. Appreciate that. So, yeah, they put this hole for the Apple logo in the back, which is funny because the logo is sideways. So when you're using it in laptop form, it's kind of stupid. Um, so I thought, because I did not want to wait for the Magic Keyboard case, which sounds like it might not even come out till the end of May. Way too long. That's way too long a wait. So I was like, you know what? It may not be as great. It may not utilize the smart connector and whatnot, but I just need to try to use the iPad with a keyboard and a trackpad. And I found this case on Amazon for $80. I can't even remember the name of it, and they don't even print it anywhere on the packaging or on the product itself. They have no branding whatsoever, which ordinarily I guess I'd be fine with that, but it's even got little like scratches on it. Like I bought this new. I didn't buy it refurbished. It's $80, and I'm absolutely returning it because it's been garbage. Um, but this trackpad is by far the worst part of the product. The keyboard part is okay. Let me be clear. The keyboard part is fine. You can type on it, though it does bulge quite a bit when you press inward. But the keys work and everything. The keys are fine. It's just the trackpad is utter trash. Like sometimes when I'm moving around my finger on the trackpad, the cursor will be jumping all over the place, and I don't think it's just an iPad OS bug. For one, this is not on the public beta. This is on the official release, and also I've used it with the Magic Mouse and not had the same problem. But I don't know if I can recreate it here. Okay, oh, I'm recreating it here. Okay, so it's not clicking here. Oh, now it's clicking. Not click here. Not clicking when I press right here. Clicking when I press here. Not clicking when I press here. Or here. Anywhere on the top, actually. The whole top, because it's the, diving board style, like, it works on this side. Doesn't work, like, right down at the middle. I'm not even touching the top. It's not clicking there. Here, though, yes. Not here. Like, not right in the center of the trackpad. Yes, it does have RGB, which is funny. So if I boot it up here, if I turn it on, it lights up. And it should connect automatically if it does its job right. Yep, it's already connected to the iPad. So let me, for the sake of the demo, pop this thing in. So that's what it looks like with the iPad. And the cursor's tracking pretty good right now, but it is not consistent, I promise you. In the past, it would lag out of control. And the most frustrating part is that you cannot click the trackpad in the very center, not even at the top part of it. Like you have to click on the sides, and even those are not consistent. And you can't click at the top. So it's like only 40% of this trackpad is actually usable. And I know there's the tap to click thing, but the issue is it's so unreliable with like how often the trackpad will just flat out disconnect. And of course, because I'm live, it's not doing it for you right now. But I know my experience, and I know that this trackpad is garbage. I don't want a trackpad that I can't click like that. For one, I've never liked that. I've done the tap to click things on MacBooks in the past, and I always thought that was weird, and it always felt awkward. It makes dragging things really complicated. Let's see. I have a Bluetooth keyboard plus trackpad combo for my iPad mini 5th gen. That's a very small laptop, but good for you. Let's see. Are all of them like this, or is it just this unit? Well, that's the complicated part. I might have a one-off, but this product had like 4.5 stars on Amazon. So I was reading people's reviews of it, and they were all saying, yeah, it works pretty well, it works decently. And I was like, okay, so if this many people have bought it and it's having enough high reviews, sure, why not try it out myself? But I don't understand how anyone could be okay with this trackpad unless there's some type of malfunction with mine. I won't say that's impossible, but oh man, scrolling is also terrible. Let me give you a demo for scrolling. I'm going to open Twitter here. Look how choppy, like it does not look like the way Magic Mouse scrolls at all. Look how choppy this is. Like it's not fluid. It's just like it's very scratchy. And it's very like fixated. It jumps around a lot. It makes the experience incredibly laggy to the point that I had to pretty much stop using this thing like 10 minutes after putting my iPad in and connecting it because I wanted to do something simple. I was like, okay, something I use my iPad for a lot is making video thumbnails, and I tried to like take a screenshot, open over, edit the screenshot together, add some text, and then share it via AirDrop to my Mac. And the whole experience took about 10 times longer than I could do with it because I felt like I just wanted to keep reaching out and touch the display because of how the scrolling in the trackpad was. You might have duped by fake reviews. Should use the website FakeSpot to spot them out. Not a plug, just really useful site. Well, it's not a good idea because you can still the reviews I were reading were not like duplicates of other reviews, and they did have consumer images and stuff. But it's possible I just got a defective unit. But either way, it's not a good business strategy because Amazon has really, really good return policies. So if something doesn't work or you don't like it, it's fairly easy to return the product. But I'll leave it a 1-star review. I'll make sure other people are like, do not buy this thing. Let's see. I don't understand keyboard cases like those. It's a 2-in-1 with pen support. I don't want it to be stuck in a case. I prefer case with detachable keyboards. Yeah, that's obviously a problem we're not going to have with the Magic Keyboard case when that comes out. You can very, very easily pull the iPad off the keyboard case if you need to, whereas this is very much fixating it into a laptop design. But yeah, it was a huge disappointment. I knew it would not be great, but I was thinking, yeah, you know what? I haven't tried just buying a decent, third-party accessory in a while. And I thought you're supposed to be able to do 3 to go home, but now it's not doing it. I guess you have the home button instead of the escape key on the keyboard. Yeah, but the trackpad was by far the worst part. If it was just being used as a keyboard, that would be fine, but also in its current state, I feel like most apps on the iPad are still not built for mouse support, or if they are compatible with mouse support, they really need like a certified Apple Magic trackpad or Apple Magic mouse in order for it to work reliably, because as soon as you try to do any kind of scrolling with this trackpad, it's so jittery, it's so jumpy, and that doesn't work when you're trying to use like pro apps or doing photo or video editing. You cannot have the timeline going. You need it to be fluid, and you need it to be smooth and dynamic, and every motion has to showcase those frames in between the motion, and this is just not that. So I was like, well, this is what I get for trying something new. Only the Magic trackpad supports 2+ finger gestures, which is why scrolling is bad. Yeah, that makes sense. I believe it. I just hope that... See, how come that works? If I lock the screen and I do 2 fingers, that doesn't work. But if I... See, here's what's interesting. I can click, and if I do 3 now... Wait, let me unlock it first. Hold up. If I do it 3 fingers on the lock screen, it'll jump to home. But if I'm in something like Twitter, if I try to jump home, it doesn't. So it only works when unlocking the device. So it's not very consistent. I tried to do it with just 2 fingers, so I know that doesn't work. If I try to do 2 fingers when unlocking the device, it doesn't unlock it. And if I try to do 1 finger, you just have the cursor jumping around. So it is capable of supporting 3, because I can still do this. I just can't go home when I'm in the Twitter app. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a glitch or something they can change. But yes, it technically does support that. It registers when I'm doing 3 fingers, which is interesting. Let's see. Don't you want to hold on to the iPad 2020 so you can review iOS features that later will require the hardware of the iPad 2020? I don't personally think there will be much to review in iOS that will be exclusive to the 2020 iPad Pro. I mean, there might be some augmented reality stuff, but honestly, it's not something I feel like I'm going to be missing out on because of how similar the A12X and A12Z chip are. So I don't think there's going to be much that's like, nah, you needed that LiDAR sensor and now you can't have it, because all the software, a lot of people forget about this, but all the software they unveil in June at Worldwide Developers Conference is not public until the new iPhones come out. Usually is when the new iOS launches for everybody. Until then, it's just in developer mode. So if there's LiDAR features or LiDAR exclusive things, I say that because I don't really think, the ultra-wide is not exclusive. There's not a lot of exclusive hardware to this iPad that I can't already get on my phone. My phone has Wi-Fi 6. My phone has the ultra-wide. My phone has the ultra-wideband chip. The only thing my phone doesn't have is the LiDAR sensor, so that's the only thing I can think of. And I don't think iPadOS is just going to be like, hey, we're going to give portrait mode on the rear-facing camera in video bokeh to just the 2020 iPad Pro and not give it to the iPhone. I think they would rather wait on that until the new iPhones come out, which I will be getting and keeping, obviously, and that's going to have LiDAR, and we have a pretty good idea of what that looks like now, too. So no, I'm not worried about missing out on stuff. I don't think that one extra core is going to help very much. TME Michael, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate that. Can you do a review on your car, and also is the upcoming iPhone Pros going to have different features between the two sizes, like back in the iPhone and 7 Plus days? Probably to a certain extent. From what we're hearing currently, even from like leaks and rumors I'm hearing today, the general consensus, the general lineup Ming-Chi Kuo gave us back in, was it December or November? It was a long time ago. Has not really changed with the whole iPhone lineup. It's basically been, there's 2 Pros and there's 2 non-Pros. The regular iPhone 12s, the non-Pro versions, I mean, the whole lineup gets OLED, but the non-Pros will be 5.4 inch and 6.1 inch. And when it comes to the cameras, they'll just have the same camera system as the iPhone 11, maybe a little bit improved for the ultra-wide and the regular lens, but it's still going to be a dual camera setup for both. And the Pros obviously will have OLED displays, and then they'll also have the triple camera setup and a LiDAR sensor, similar to the design I showed you guys in yesterday's video. So that general rule of thumb of that's how they differentiate the Pros from the regulars. Oh, and the Pros are coming in 6.1 inch and 6.7 inch. So you have 2 6.1 inch iPhones this year, but one is Pro, one is not. And it's my personal prediction that the Pros will get 120 hertz and the regular ones will not, but there's been no confirmation of that. That's just my guess. So that really hasn't changed for the most part. My question is, why spend like 1.5K on an iPad Pro with a new case when you can spend the same amount for a decent MacBook Pro or good Air? It makes no sense to me. Good question, Many Dinosaur. The answer is because the iPad Pro has a ton of stuff the MacBook doesn't. Where do I begin? iPad has a touch display, which you can interact with, so it's a 2-in-1. Yes, it can do laptop-y things, but you can't just convert your MacBook into a touch interface and start drawing on it and stuff. The MacBook has no Apple Pencil support. The MacBook has no 120 hertz. The MacBook has no Face ID. The MacBook has no accelerometer or gyroscope or rear-facing camera. So all things that the iPad has over the MacBook. So yes, while getting an iPad Pro with a Magic Keyboard case, you're easily approaching MacBook prices. You're getting something that can do way more than a MacBook can. And in a lot of ways, those cheaper, lower-end MacBooks you're comparing it to don't have the performance of the A12X or A12Z chip that are just kind of waiting on software support. They're not really waiting on, hardware upgrades in the future to make them faster. Also, yeah, the webcam on MacBooks is hot garbage, whereas the front-facing camera on the iPad Pro, 1080 at 60. You can't say that about your, $5,000 MacBook. So there's a bunch of advantages the iPad has over the MacBook, objectively. So a lot of people just wish they could convert their iPad Pro into a laptop. And for the longest time, I didn't think it was a good idea, but now that Apple shows how they're kind of redesigning the cursor support, and they're not just porting it over from macOS, and they're changing the user interface. Like, even with my short times using this crappy keyboard case with the iPad and actually like having prolonged use with the cursor, I'm already realizing like the interface is still very much touch dominant. That has not changed. Like the trackpad input is an option thing now, but so many times throughout using the interface, I still want to reach up and grab it, and I want to pick it up and move it around for making video thumbnails and stuff like that. It's a much more versatile product than a MacBook is, because a MacBook, no accelerometer, no rear-facing camera, no Face ID, no 120 hertz, no touchscreen, no Apple Pencil support. There's so much extra you get with the iPad. Let's see. Apple views the iPad and iPadOS as the future, clearly, so it's going to get more attention than the Mac going forward. If you need to do pro work, that's why they still sell Macs. Yeah, the Macs aren't going anywhere soon, per se, but I am working with a conceptor, a guy who makes up concepts. In fact, he made the concept for my iMac Pro wish list for 2020. I was like, okay, this is not leaks or anything. I'm just describing what I would like to see in a future iMac. I'm working with that same guy on what I would like to see for a future iPad Pro that would be more of a MacBook Pro killer. The current iPads, they're approaching, once the Magic Keyboard case comes out, they're approaching like MacBook Air killers, but I don't think they're killing the MacBook Pros, especially the 16-inch MacBook Pro, just because there's so much processing power, so much more I/O, and also just a larger display that I'm trying to make in my wish list video. I'm trying to make an iPad Pro that would be a 16-inch MacBook Pro killer. That's what I'm pitching, and I think it's cool. So stay tuned for that. I don't know when it's coming out. He's busy, obviously, so I told him to take his time, no rush. But yeah, it'll be cool. Cursor is a good addition. It just needs developers to support it more. Well, yeah, it did just come out, guys. Like, honestly, the Cursor support in 13.4 is not even a month old yet. So let's give the developers a little bit of time to adapt. In the first party hardware with the Magic Keyboard case is not even available yet, so they can't even really work with that at this point. I wanted to kill a MacBook Pro. Let me code on iPad, and I'm all good. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. People have been asking for that for years. And I feel like if they're launching the keyboard case before Worldwide Developers Conference, they must be planning something big for the event themselves, and that makes me hope, I really, really hope, that they're planning on just bringing and launching a bunch of high-end apps, pro apps to the iPad. Things like Final Cut, Logic, and Xcode, I think would be the top. After a couple months of Mint Mobile, how are you liking it? I'm really liking it, actually. I ran a test. I'm rocking the Mint merch today. For one, for the past 2 months, they've offered unlimited data, which is really, really cool because by default, Mint doesn't have, they technically don't have unlimited data plans, but at the same time, they kind of do because traditionally with other carriers, if they say the data is not unlimited, what they mean is when you hit your limit, there will be overage fees. And there's not overage fees with Mint. If you run out of data, your data just gets slower. But it's actually still usable because I ran a test this month because I'm currently on the 8 gigabyte plan. And I was like, I want to see what happens if I run through all my data because my data renews like tomorrow. So I was like, why not? So I opened Google Photos, obviously, and it just, ran through all my data. No problem. And then this morning I was like, okay, I don't have data anymore on my Mint Mobile plan. How slow is this data? Because again, there's no overage fee. You can pay more to get more data if you want, but they won't automatically charge you, which I like. So afterwards, I tried to open a few websites and I tried to open Twitter. Very, very slow, obviously. Like they slow you down to like 100 kilobits per second. It's barely usable, but it does technically work. I was able to, the tweet that I sent out when I went live on Twitch today, that was sent after all my data had run out and I was still on cellular on my iPhone. I was like, okay, I'm going to type out this tweet, hit tweet and see if it sends. And it sent. It worked. So it's not like it's unusable once you go through that 8 or 12 gigs, whichever data plan you decide to go with. Once you get through that, like you can still do stuff. It's just going to be really slow. And I think people will really use their data differently if they know that they're not going to get an overage fee when they run out. You don't have to worry about an overage fee. It's like, burn through all the gigs. It's way different from a data plan that's like, hey, if you hit this many gigs, then we're going to charge you again. So that's why I've really been enjoying them lately. And I just figured that out today. I was like, okay, it's still usable. CWABs donated 10 bits. I don't want to use my iPad as a laptop. Where you go? Even if I could, well, that's the great option, is Apple's not forcing it upon anybody. The Magic Keyboard case is an optional accessory. So the whole idea is that the iPad is still a tablet dominantly. The touch interface is still the default way to interact with it. But if you're adding a keyboard, it doesn't really make much sense to not add a cursor. Because the whole idea of having the cursor down there is that, well, that's where your hands are. So if your hands are down here, and you want to move around or select something else, you might as well have a little cursor interaction so that you can move around, just like how we can have cursor support on our iPhone keyboards when you hold down the space bar, or your 3D Touch if you have that. Like, the whole idea is like, yeah, you could reach up and just try to tap the cursor in the exact place you want it to be, but since your fingers are down on the keyboard anyway, just make it simple, and that's what they're doing with the Magic Keyboard case. Makes perfect sense to me. What are other carriers in the U.S. doing? Because Mint is exactly how every carrier in Germany works. Now I don't get how the other carriers in the U.S. work. There is a whole can of worms we could get into with how different carriers are in different countries. I've seen certain people online say the U.S. carrier system is vastly better than theirs, and I've also seen people in different parts of the world say the U.S. carrier sucks compared to their countries. It's a big spectrum. There's all kinds of issues, but when it comes to American carriers, I've had a tremendous amount of success with Mint Mobile. My parents are loving it, and I love the referral program, which is honestly what any YouTuber should do. If you have a dominant audience, you should go with a carrier that will discount your plan if you refer people. Which Verizon, AT&T doesn't really do that. So it makes a total amount of sense to me because I can refer my fans, and basically I don't have to pay for phone service for the next 2 years, possibly more if I get more referrals. But that 2 years was the maximum before, like, getting more referrals wouldn't make a difference. So I can just make another video in 2 years about my experience with Mint Mobile and then just refer a bunch more people. So basically I have free phone service, but that's just because I'm a creator. If I was not a creator, it would still be a lot cheaper than Verizon, that's for sure. Actually, 3D Touch still exists with Apple Pencil. It does register the pressure when using Apple Pencil for haptic touch. I don't think that counts as 3D Touch, though, because 3D Touch was the idea that there's like a hard press and then a super hard press that would peak and pop things, whereas the Apple Pencil doesn't do that. It's pressure sensitive, but it's not in 3 dimensions. It's like in 20 dimensions, like the different levels of pressure sensitivity, and that's really just for drawing. I don't think it unlocks certain parts of the software. When I went to Europe, service coverage was very similar to the States. Now pricing is a whole different story, but the U.S. is way larger and more expensive place to cover than the smaller European countries. Exactly. Thank you, Scott. Because countries vary in size, that means that it varies in price to be able to cover different locations and stuff, which is why certain internet providers have a lot harder time in the U.S. than in other countries. Why are they turning the iPad into a MacBook and not just caving and adding a touchscreen to the MacBook Pro? Seems like a better move, and they can add some other things like Face ID and ProMotion down the line. Seems like a better move for them because Apple can justify a higher price for MacBook Pros than iPads. It's a clever thought, but my point is the iPad is already more versatile. Like it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a lot easier to just add cursor support to the iPad than it would be add a touchscreen to the MacBook. That's like a whole new can of worms in manufacturing and user interface changes, whereas adopting iPad OS to support a cursor wasn't really that complex. It just required them to tweak a few things. And because they have complete control over the iPad with the ARM architecture, and they're designing the CPUs, and they design all the hardware on the inside, whereas they don't with MacBooks. They have contracts with Intel and AMD, so they have a lot less control over the MacBook line, which is why I think they would rather work on making the iPad more of a laptop than trying to make the MacBook into a tablet. Because even if you gave it a touchscreen, you still can't pull the display off unless Apple decided to make a MacBook that was more like a Surface Book or something like that. But honestly, I think that focusing on making the iPad a tablet first was key, and they've kind of nailed that. They've kind of figured that out, and you still can. Like, the fact that they're adding cursor support is not changing the fundamental user input because they didn't have to drastically redesign iPad OS. They're still, for the most part, keeping it the same, which means that it is a tablet first, and you can use it touch only, and the cursor is just kind of there as an option. Whereas the MacBook, you would have to change so much of Mac OS to get it touch friendly, and it would still, like, you'd have to design some type of detachable screen to make it a 2-in-1. So no, I don't think that was an easier way to go. Maybe they have plans for that in the future, but I think Apple feels like they have more reign and control over the internals and externals of the iPad compared to the MacBook, so that's why they would rather focus on getting a tablet more like a laptop instead of making a laptop more like a tablet. Let's see. It doesn't count as 3D Touch, but it is faster when pressing harder on a haptic touch compatible button. Really? I wonder if that's placebo. Krishna, hey Drew, how are you doing? Congratulations on clearing up your mortgage. Thank you, Krishna. I appreciate it. We're really excited about that. For those who don't know, the big news, we paid off our house. So all of these walls, that ceiling, this floor, paid for. No bank we have to pay money back to. It's ours. Obviously, as long as we keep paying property tax. But yeah, property tax is cheap. And it was funny because I remember looking back at some of the old comments people left on the video when I announced, like, hey, we moved and we bought this house and we're going to be paying it off for the next few years. People were like, yeah, but it's not really that much better than renting because you have things like the interest that you have to pay on the mortgage and you don't get that money back, and there's property taxes. And I was like, okay, we did all the math, we looked at all the numbers, we looked at the total amount of money we paid in interest and the total amount of money we pay yearly for property taxes. It's so much cheaper than renting, honestly. Plus, renting, you're never going to own something. You're just going to be paying monthly forever and ever and ever. Whereas when you have the option to buy something outright, I'm not docking you if you rent. It's fine given financial situations for different people. I rented for a long time too. It was just we realized that we had the finances and the resources to buy outright. And because we had the resources, we should definitely look into it, because once you own property, it will escalate in value. It goes up. And even if it goes down sometimes, you still have a place to live, which means that your overall monthly expenses just go way, way, way down compared to renting. So that was awesome, and it was a milestone. We did not expect to hit this soon, but I have you guys to thank for that. Thank you for being so supportive and for donating, and just watching my videos has helped me out immensely, and it's helped us pay off the house in a matter of less than 9 months. It was like 8.5 months it took us to pay the whole thing off, which was awesome. Let's see. When Riley from Linus Tech Tips complained he couldn't place the cursor in between the forward and backwards buttons in Safari, I was like, why do you want to do that? Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Why would you want to go between it? But I think that's my point, is that they didn't just port over the macOS experience, which is maybe what some people wanted, but I'm glad they didn't, because it shows a differing line. It's like, yes, you can have a cursor on the iPad if you want, but we're not going to make it the default. We're not going to make it the normal. It's just going to be an optional thing, but touch is still going to be the dominant one. Hey, Cinders is in the chat. Hope Cinders is doing well. We tried to meet up a couple times while he was on break, but given quarantine began, we were like, yeah, can't do that. Hey, Drew, what is your everyday audio setup? Oh, it's so complicated. I have such an elaborate audio setup. It's amazing. It's a Zoom H6 microphone. That's it. I just plug it into the computer when I do these live streams, and then when I do a video, I just point it at me. It's so difficult. What are your thoughts on Microsoft and others moving forward? Apple literally gave companies the Krabby Patty formula in making a 2-in-1, make a good tablet, and ease into laptop things. I feel like companies have already given up on trying to make decent tablets, and the only thing they do now is like, just make it a laptop at that point. And the only thing that makes it a tablet is that it happens to have a touchscreen. But if you try to use a Pixel Slate or a Surface Pro as a tablet only, it's a complete joke. I don't think they're going to try to redesign it, personally. I think they've just given up on that war. Whereas Apple, yeah, Crappy Patty, maybe that wasn't a typo. Whereas Apple immensely prioritized the touch experience and said, okay, once we've nailed everything a tablet can do, that's when we start moving into more laptop things. Is this upcoming Apple Watch going to have big changes, like an improved chip or something else than the Series 5? That's funny. I'm surprised you would call an improved chip a big change. Like, what are you doing on your Apple Watch that requires, like, a really good CPU or GPU? Is this some watch face you're trying to play that just needs, NVIDIA graphics or something? Like, I'm sure the new Apple Watch this year will probably get a new CPU, but even if it was a big change, I don't think that would be a big deal. I would not consider that a big change. I mean, it's not like you're doing video editing or gaming on your watch. No, I don't think the Series 6 is going to be major. I think that it may have a couple of nifty things like blood oxygen testing or maybe an improved battery. But other than that, no, I think Series 4 was probably the biggest Apple Watch upgrade we're going to get in a long time. Unless they're planning some type of huge redesign to it. I think that's kind of the only way they can make the Apple Watch feel like a big deal. I don't think it would be a big deal if they just added some new health feature. I don't think anyone would care. C-Wobs donated 5 bits for Apple Watch MLG Gaming. Yeah, we need that. You don't need to say MLG Gaming. It's like saying ATM machine. Let's see. And I need an A20X for my Apple Watch so it can be future-proof for 10G. Yes, thank you. When are we getting 10G Apple Watch? It's going to get like tiny things. It's going to be like, ooh, the Apple Watch has Wi-Fi 6. Cool. As someone with lung issues, blood oxygen monitoring would be amazing. I'd upgrade in a second. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not big for you. People who need the blood oxygen testing would be ecstatic to see that. That would be great. I'm just saying if you're not in a medical situation where that's important, or you don't need to check your blood oxygen very regularly, yeah, that's agreed. It's a niche argument. There will be people who appreciate it, and I'm not saying it shouldn't exist. I hope people understand that. Like, just because I'm saying a product isn't a major upgrade, like the 2020 iPad Pro was not a major upgrade. And people were commenting on my review that it's like, it's not worth it if you already have the 20 iPad. I was like, I know, I said that. My point is, I'm glad it exists because Apple has changed and updated the value of what a $1,000, $800 iPad can give you. And they made it better. So even if you already have a clunky old 2018 iPad and it still works fine, this probably wasn't meant for you. This was probably just to update for potential buyers who didn't get a 2018 iPad yet and want to get the latest, greatest stuff. And if you don't care about that one and you want to get certified refurbished, then by all means, that is now an option. But you have to acknowledge that the 2020 iPad made the 2018 iPad go down in value, which makes all of its great features more affordable. So similarly, if the Series 6 comes out and it has something like that, a better battery life or a blood oxygen monitoring or something that's niche, then cool, the Series 5 gets cheaper. Or the Series 4 gets even cheaper. That would be cool. Let's see. Do you think we might actually see a better screen-to-body ratio on the Apple Watch this year? I don't think so. I think we would have heard about it by now if they were planning on doing that. And I personally think the bezels are decently thin on the Apple Watch already. They're about the width of the bezels on the iPhone currently, which is the thinnest bezels Apple makes. There's no bezels thinner than the Series 4 or 11 Pro right now. So if the bezels got even thinner, they would have to probably use some type of new display technology. I don't know. Like they'd probably have to switch to micro LED or mini LED. I don't know. Something. 20 bits from CWABs, like a 6G, G6 is what I get. Very funny. Thank you. Can't wait to upgrade to the 2020 iPad Pro from my smashed iPad Mini 1. Just don't smash the new one, okay? It's not super durable. Hoping that the Taylosa Podcast YouTube gets off to a great start like the EV channel. It probably won't blow up that fast because EV channel was getting daily uploads and the EV community was kind of booming at the time the EV channel got started. But, and Taylosa Podcast is a very different form of media. It's a long form, which has more slow growth than it does quick growth, and it's not like it's uploading daily. It'll be uploading, once a week, 2 to 3 times. I post these live streams on the Taylosa Podcast channel. Hello, if you're watching there. I used to upload them. I used to transport these to the tech channel unlisted and leave them as a playlist because I didn't want every single Twitch stream to show up in people's subscriptions feed because they're not really the same type of videos as the rest of the stuff I upload, so I felt like it didn't really make sense. But I thought it made sense on Taylosa Podcast because that channel's built for like longer form content, and we also need the watch time because that channel, anybody who's watching us on that channel gets ad-free podcasts, and we don't make any money off of that until we hit 4,000 hours and reach 1,000 subscribers, which we'll do in time. It will take a little while, but we'll get there. The AirPods by default have thinner bezels since they have no bezels. No, they have one little pixel and then the rest of the whole case they have one little light. Does that count? Let's see. Does the iPhone 11 Pro not look silver? In January, I went to the mall and visited the Apple Store. It looks white, not silver. Oh, God. Give me a break on the differences between white and silver. Yeah, that doesn't look white to me. It looks more eggshell or maybe a shade towards bone. Maybe it's more polar bear or paper or perhaps sock. I don't know. There's so many different shades of white. AirPods have huge bezels. They're basically nothing but bezel because there's one little light on it. Same with the Mac Mini. It has one little light and then the rest of it's bezel. Let's see. Need Wi-Fi 6 on my Apple Watch so when my phone is on the other side of my $200 Manor, I can still text. I can still text my supermodel wife. Very, very good flex. Thank you, Mini Dinosaur. What do you think about the iPad Mini 5? I think it's coming up on a year old now. Yeah, it's over a year old now, right? What color is my Taylosa tea? Eggshell. Thank you for the bit senders. I'm loving my new gold 11 Pro Max Sports Edition. Nice. Oh yeah, you sent me the photo of that. You're like the one friend I know that has the gold one. I have Randy who got midnight green, and Nick who got silver, just like I did, copycat. And now Min has gold. But well, do I know anyone with gray? Someone in the chat probably has a gray one. I think I know a couple people in the Discord that have a Space Gray 11 Pro. So I know everybody. But Cinders was the first person I was like, he's got gold. Someone finally got it. 10 bits from CWABs. Apple introduces the new portless iPads, MacBooks, and iMacs. When the battery runs out, buy a new one. Sounds like not Johnny Ive back in my Twitter feed. I just want a new iPad Air with the iPad Pro. Then Apple can go bankrupt or something. Oh, okay. With the iPad Pro treatment. Yes, I agree. I mean, at this point, it has to be not that far off, right? Because in a lot of ways, the iPad Air, as it currently sits, is basically like a slightly changed 10.5-inch iPad Pro. It works with the same cases as the iPad Pro. They just turned off 120 hertz and they gave it the A12 chip. But it's the same footprint, same design, pretty much the exact same iPad. There's just tiny things they changed for it. And at the time, the 10.5-inch iPad Pro was like about $500. And now the iPad Air obviously is $500. So if they were to refresh the iPad Air, it would make a lot of sense to make it a lot like the 11-inch iPad Pro, because the 11-inch iPad Pro refurbished from 2018 is still on Apple's refurbished page like $550. So get rid of ProMotion. Maybe you give it worse cameras. Like, don't give it a 4K camera. It's fine with 1080. And boom, maybe give it like instead of what the heck is it called again? I forgot the name of the super fast A12X. Instead of giving it the A12X chip, give it like the A13, because that's, I don't know, maybe it's a little cheaper or something like that. But still, I feel like there's room for a cheaper iPad that looks like the Pros but isn't a Pro. Come on, come on. RJ Moore 87, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Happy Monday. Thank you guys. Happy Monday. I forget it's Monday. All the days kind of blurred together now. I'm working every day, and the weekends aren't really weekends anymore because we're just home and working. It's like, I guess it's Monday. Yeah, okay, whatever. RCA 950, thank you for the Twitch Prime for 11 months. Do you still have a P.O. box? Would like to send you a letter. Now is probably a terrible time to send anybody anything if you don't absolutely have to. But no, we had a P.O. box for a while, and we got a bunch of stuff sent to us. Too much stuff, in fact. A bunch of stuff that I went through yesterday because we were cleaning up my office. And I was like, there's a bunch of crap these companies or these people would send me that I would use once and then never use again. And it's just been weighing on us, just having so much stuff, and I don't want to be a hoarder. So I was like, let's get rid of this. Let's just throw some of this stuff out. I mean, we did videos on them. It's not like they didn't, it's not like they all went to waste. But like so much junk. But the reason we stopped doing the PO box was because it had been, I think, like 3 months and no one had sent anything. So when I first launched it, it was really popular, but then afterwards it just kind of died, and it costs money. The PO box is not free. So I was like, why are we spending money on this if no one's sending us anything at this point? So, of course, obviously, after we stopped having a P.O. box, that's when everyone's like, hey, I want to send you something. But I'm not, I don't need letters. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me here. You can talk to me in the Discord. There's other ways of communicating with me. But, sorry, right now is not a great time to mail anything just because of the pandemic. Cinders donated 15 bits. This is the perfect time for content. I was listening to this stream during my Zoom lecture. Oh, perfect. This is how everybody deals with school. They can watch the live stream at the same time. Lol, new Samsung Buds look like beans. Catch me with that crap in my ear. I didn't see the new ones. Last week I got my 2020 iPad Pro 11-inch to replace my laptop, and it's going great so far. The only thing I miss is Final Cut Pro X, but fingers crossed for WWDC. That, or I hope this LumaFusion can update their app to be more cursor-friendly at some point in the future. Dear Drew, it's been 792 days. Yes. 1 bit from CWABs. At this time, Zoom makes Facebook care about your privacy. Really? I didn't think that was possible. That's amazing. My dearest Talos of Tech, I'm writing this note to confess my... That's great. I mean, I finished an assignment while watching the stream. Hey! Hats off to Zambi952. Congratulations on multitasking for being able to support Talos of Tech while also supporting yourself and getting that assignment done. Hats off to this guy. Productivity 100. This man has 72 gigs of RAM in his brain. Good for Zambi. My school is using Google Meets. Not actually that bad. Well, good. Because I'm sure Google cares about our privacy. Probably more than Facebook, but less than Apple. If they make a midnight blue iPhone 12 Pro next year, are you... you probably meant to ask, will I get the midnight blue, which is probably not. I couldn't make up my mind. I need to see the shade. I mean, I know that Tailosive Tech and everything is blue, but man, I don't know. It would depend on the shade. Like my first phone ever, I'm not talking about my first smartphone. I just mean my first phone I ever owned was an iPhone 5 in black. And, you know, the original iPhone 5 had a very, like, midnight blue look to it. And it was okay. Some people go gaga for that, and they're like, oh, yes, I need that back. And I was like, silver looks fine to me. I don't know if I would switch for midnight blue. There are two colors I would absolutely switch for. That being piano black, like an actual black, not just space gray, but, like, jet black iPhone 7 looking black. Like, that looks really, really cool. I would switch to that if they had it, as well as product red. Red is my favorite color. You wouldn't have guessed it, but I just always love the way product red phones pop. And if they made an 12 Pro Max in product red, I would switch to that easily. It would suck if there was that rumor I saw that they were like, Verizon wants to have a product red exclusive. So you can get a product red iPhone, but you have to be on Verizon. I'd be like, no. I don't think I would leave Mint for that, but that would suck. I would see if there's a way to get it from Verizon and then switch to Mint on it. Jet black iPhone 7 that doesn't scratch. I had a jet black iPhone 7 for a while. It held up pretty well. It did get some scratches, but it wasn't as bad as other people's was. I just want a midnight green Apple Watch. Green is my favorite color. I hope they don't kill it just after a year. I'm guessing they will. I think the green was like a one-off, and they want to mix it up a little bit year after year. Michael asks, now that the house is paid off, congrats, by the way, any updates on your plan to potentially get a Model 3 or probably Model Y since that's cooler? That's a good point. I do think the Model Y is cooler. I just don't know if I would utilize its benefits. But, yeah, the plan for the Tesla doesn't really change from this. I mean, I know for the longest time I've been saying, like, we want to pay off the house before we get one. It's just now we've spent all of our, you know, outside of our emergency fund, we've put all our money towards the house. So there's not really a lot of people, once we announced the mortgage was paid off, they were like, cool, so you're getting a Tesla now. It's like, no, I mean, all that money went to the house. It's not like there's a big pile of money when you're done paying off a house that's like, here, do whatever you want with this. It's like, now we have to save up money to get a Tesla. And we don't have we don't have a ton of money right now because we put it all towards the house. I mean, we have, you know, basic money for expenses and stuff. I'm not saying we all went broke, we're out of money. No, I just mean, like, this was the first goal, and now, like, I guess we're saving money for the next big purchase. So that's the situation we're in right now. I'm on day 17 of using my iPhone without Face ID, and it's still annoying. My Face ID scanner stopped working randomly. Ooh, that's not good. You should switch to Android. I've never heard of those having problems. But no, seriously, that sucks. I've heard of people having issues with Face ID and it just doesn't work anymore, but it's never happened to me. I know if it did, though, I would be very annoyed. I wonder if it's because the phone gets hit or dropped in a specific way and it dislodges some of the sensors. Because whenever it happens, I notice it happens to people that are rough with their phones. So I don't know if it's a complete coincidence or it's a manufacturing flaw, but it did happen to Nick one time. And I know how much he slams his phone around. His phone around quite a bit. Your Sonata is good enough. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the dumbest thing about people saying, like, I'm going to buy a Tesla now is that we're in quarantine and my wife is home now all the time. We barely leave our house anymore. So why would we spend, 40 grand on a car? that we would like if we got one right now, I would just kind of sit in it and be like, this is fun, and I would love to do that, but there's really no point in getting one right now. I would have no use for it. Maybe when virus dies down a little bit and isn't as big an issue as it is right now. But in the meantime, yeah, I'll just keep working and save for it. Um, let's see. Do you save using stocks or a savings account through your bank? We have a little bit invested, but most of it is yeah, in like retirement accounts or a bank account. Yeah, not too much in stock markets. So we're not impacted by the whole Dow's plunging. Rarely meet tech people who don't handle their tech with care. Really? I do. I see it all the time. I've seen like several tech channels that like throw their phone around and just drop them or wedge them in places, and that are like also techie people that are just rugged. Would you like to see Drew do car reviews? Are you going to replace iMac Pro? I would love to do more car reviews. It's just a terrible time to start doing them because we're trying our best right now to like minimize human to human interaction, and I don't think that's a good idea to go out and start driving other people's cars or renting cars. And I mean, we did rent a Model 3 on Turo last year, and we made a video on it on Talos of Tech, and yeah, it was fun. I don't think there's much of a need to do that again. I don't think I would have much to say. Drew reviews my car. Drew DeMero. Yeah. I get your point. I'm not paranoid about security, but I do take proper measures against clear online threats. That's good. That's good. Would you buy it cash, finance, or lease? Yeah, we don't like debt. So I'm fairly confident if we do buy another car, it will be outright. We would not get a loan on it because we did not like having a mortgage, honestly. It was not fun looking in that banking app and seeing this big number of like, here's what you owe. And that was really intimidating, and we didn't like doing it. And that was with something that goes up in value over time. I think it makes a little more sense to get a loan on something that will increase in value over time, an asset, if you will, not so much a liability. A car will not increase in value over time. It's going to depreciate as years go on, and the more you use it. So getting a loan on something that's going to go down in value just seems like a bad idea to me. I guess like loans make sense for people that like need to get something now, and I guess it makes a little bit more sense with a Tesla because people justify like, well, if I keep driving my current car, I have to keep spending money on gas, which is not an investment, that's a utility, so I'm just going to lose that money. So if I switch to a Tesla now, I don't have to pay for gas, and I'll translate my payments that I make towards gasoline into now payments towards ownership. So I'll get a loan on that. So I can kind of get that logic, but again, we're not in dire need of like we need to get a car soon because the Sonata gets the job done. So it's like I want to get a Tesla, but it's not for really any functional benefit other than I would like to make videos with it on the EV channel, but it's not like that's an instant return on investment. Like the channel is nowhere near making that amount of money that it would actually be financially beneficial to buy a car and make videos about it that would eventually pay off the car. It's not the same thing as like buying an iPad or an iPhone or an Apple Watch. Those things, it's pretty easy to like buy them and then you make videos on them and those videos pay for the product. Whereas Tesla's way up there, so it's not that easy. Why I'm trying to avoid student loans. No, thank you. Not interested. I'd sell all my tech first. Yeah, personally, I think loans are a good thing to try to avoid if possible. It's obviously not something everyone can do, but you don't want to get into debt into something that's not really going to pay off the debt, because usually anytime someone goes into debt, there's interest payments along with it. It's very rare that there's like 0% interest. What do you potentially think they could do with the iPad 8th generation, aka 2020 budget iPad? Yeah, I saw someone asking that in the Discord earlier, and I didn't have a good answer for them. It's like anything they do with the budget iPad just kind of distorts the lineup now. Because I mean, like the obvious answer everyone thinks of is like they should give it a laminated display, because it's crazy that they're selling this iPad in 2020 and it still has a non-laminated display. But it's like, if it was laminated, why would anyone get the iPad Air at that point? Like, if they laminated it, then it's a 10.2 inch display with a decent CPU, and I'm sure they would update the A10 to like an A11 or A12 or something, that would make the iPad Air pointless. So I guess what I'm suggesting is take the current iPad Air, make that, I don't know, maybe 329 is too low for that hardware, but maybe make it more like $400, and then make a $500. Maybe that's too close. Maybe make the current iPad Air somehow, I don't know how. Maybe give it an A11 chip. Give it an A11 chip and maybe a worse camera or something, and make that the budget iPad and make it cost like $350. That's the 8th gen iPad. We don't call it the Air, it's just called iPad. And it has laminated display, 10.5 inch, and smart connector, support Apple Pencil and all that. And still Lightning, still home button, nothing really fancy to it. It's just a basic iPad that's now cheaper. And then replace the iPad Air with a dumbed down version of the 11-inch iPad Pro and give it 60 hertz display, no 4K camera. Maybe make the speakers a little bit worse and give it like an A13 chip instead of a A12X or A12Z or something like that. What do you do with the iPad Mini? I don't know. Even with 0% interest, the buy it now, pay it off later mindset is not a good one to have. I mean, yeah, I think generally it's good to avoid paying something off over time if you can, because you'd rather just get the monthly expenses down. But in most situations, you save money by paying things up front. You don't really usually have many financial benefits to paying things off slowly over time, especially things that don't go up in value. Let's see. My family is well off, so we don't have to worry about student loans. That's good. Do you think that all the Macs that got Catalina will get 10.16.2 since Catalina was such a mess? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I don't even remember what Catalina cut off. What was there certain Macs that didn't get Catalina? If so, that's great because the Mojave was a lot more stable. So, yeah, I'm hoping 10.16 can be just focused on stability and optimization and then just kind of fix all the Macs that got Catalina. It's been doing a lot better, to be fair. Like, it's been a lot more usable as of lately. But the Catalina launch, at least when it first came out, really bad. It was not good at all. Let's see. Yeah, so the iPad Air should be slightly downgraded, 11-inch iPad Pro for the most part. Yeah, I think so. The entire iPad lineup should be given the bezel-less iPad Pro treatment. That would be nice, but you would need some differentiating factors. Otherwise, no one would get the Pros. So you would need a couple of things. Like Apple probably knows that if they made a 60 hertz regular iPad with Face ID and no home button, their sales of the iPad Pro would tank because no one's really how many people are going to be willing to spend the extra $300 to $1,000 just so that they can have a dual camera, LiDAR, and 120 hertz. Maybe some would be willing, but I guarantee you it's a lot lower. The majority of the reason people will go with an iPad Pro is USB-C, Face ID, and the bezels, and it would detract from the sales of the Pro a lot. So, what if they made a 120 hertz iPad in the old form factor? They did. It's the 2017 iPad Pro. I have no idea why people complain about Catalina. Only thing that affected me was the 32-bit apps. Never had any bugs, and I use my Mac heavily. Well, one person can have a really decent experience, and another person can have a terrible one. It's not all the same. Also, bits missed from earlier. I'm sorry. It's hard to see when there's only like one bit. Thank you, C-Wobs. What am I missing? I don't see them. 4 bits. Online privacy is like reducing your carbon footprint. It's nearly impossible to guarantee, but there are many things you can do to significantly reduce it. Yeah, agreed. Thank you for the 4 bits. Yeah, I think I'm caught up. That was it. With the newer CPUs like an A11 or an A12. Yeah, honestly, I bet the A10 chip makes it work for most people. I don't think they need to go crazy with the lower end iPads. Do you still plan on getting a MacBook Pro to replace the iMac Pro? If yes, why? You work from home and don't need portability. Yeah, that's a good point. I really would not benefit too much from getting a 16-inch MacBook Pro right now, but I'm not counting on a new MacBook Pro to be coming out in like the coming weeks. At least a new 16-inch MacBook Pro. I'm talking more about later this year, like June at the earliest, October at the latest. So I think that a performance boost from my iMac Pro is okay. I mean, I don't really have any performance issues with my iMac Pro, but my wife does definitely miss having a laptop. She's like asking me now. She's like, "When are you getting that MacBook Pro? We should," because she enjoys having it for like spreadsheets and stuff. And I'm telling her like, "Well, just wait for the Magic Keyboard to come out, and then we'll have a laptop for that." But no, I mainly just really enjoyed it when I reviewed the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I just got the base model. I was like, "This is really nice. I love how large the display is, and I love that I could edit in other rooms. I could go on the I could go on the couch. I could go on the dining room table, and it was just more versatile. And the performance felt decent, and that was on the base model. So I plan on getting like the best CPU, best GPU possible when I do buy one. Um, so those improvements would be appreciated, and also I could switch my iMac Pro to my live streaming setup, and I would sell my Mac Mini to help offset the cost. So just the versatility, just the flexibility of having one, and eventually when the crisis is over and the virus is not as big of an issue as it is right now, I would like the option to be able to take the laptop with me on trips and stuff like that. So it's not like there's no benefit. My point is, there's not really much being done with the iMac line right now, and the 16-inch MacBook Pro feels very very fresh. Like the bezels on it are thin. The speakers on it sound amazing. The microphones are improved. The keyboard is solid. The trackpad is huge. Like there's a bunch of advantages and refreshes they gave to that 16-inch Pro, and the iMac Pro currently is getting like nothing. And I'm worried. I'm personally kind of concerned that there is a new iMac Pro coming, but it's going to suck because they're going to design it all around having a Pro display attached to it. And that means that, okay, everyone, here's the new iMac Pro. It's the iMac Pro XDR, so it's got new CPU, new GPU, really thin bezels, but it starts at $12,000. And I'm going to be like, that's not what I wanted. I basically want them to shrink the bezels on this iMac Pro, update the CPU and GPU if you want, sure, but mainly just give it a fresh look and don't charge too much extra for it. But because Apple seems to be pushing the whole extreme dynamic range thing so much, I'm worried that they're going to make an iMac Pro that starts at 12 grand and it's all about the XDR crap, and I don't want that. I just need something with equal or slightly better performance than the iMac Pro and thin bezels, which the MacBook Pro has, and it has the versatility that I can take it around with me on trips and vacations and stuff like that. Like, it would honestly be really handy if, like, we're not planning any vacations soon, but in the long-term future, we're talking about making trips overseas and visiting family, because she has lots of family and friends over in different countries and different parts of the world. And to have, like, the ability to edit videos and work when we're on those trips would be handy. Not to mention just edit on the couch, or, you know, edit in different rooms, or just go into town to edit. You know, it wouldn't be something we plan on buying, like, right now. Like, if they ended up dropping a new 16-inch MacBook Pro tomorrow, that would probably be a little bit too soon. I don't think I would order it, like, right now. I'm talking more just, like, at some point this year. Let's see. Would you get silver? Yeah, I think I would get silver. Let's see. My Apple TV has an A8 and runs great on a 4K TV, upscaling from 1080. Huh, that's funny. You should surprise Louise with the iPhone 9. Well, it's very hard to surprise my wife with tech purchases because we have joint finances. So, and also she's explicitly said several times she doesn't want it. I've offered her so many times. I promise you. I've been like, honey, we should get you the new SE when it comes out because you like the iPhone 6 and this is just the newer updated version. She's like, nope, I will use the 6 until it is completely dead. So basically she's going to use that phone until it does not turn on anymore, which might be a while given my original iPhone still turns on. So we'll see. But no, she does not want it. I've asked her many times about it. Do you think Apple doesn't care about the iMac anymore because MacBooks now have pretty much caught on, and if you really want a Pro Mac, you'll just get a Mac Pro? No, I feel like there's still room for the iMacs. They're just not really. Yeah, I agree. They don't care about it too much because the design of the iMac has not changed like at all in the past 10 years. At least on the front. And the inside, yes, and on the side, yes, it's gotten thinner and the I/O has changed and they've updated the CPUs and GPUs, but for the most part, just the front of the iMac has been identical for over 10 years now. And there's very little other products Apple has ever unveiled that have stayed the same from the front for that long. It's in desperate need of a redesign. And I don't want it to be mini LED, or I don't want it to be a Pro display. I literally just want them to do thin bezels, like just make them slim, make them narrow. Standard LCD is fine. It doesn't need to be extreme dynamic range, and just update the front to look a little bit cleaner, and I'd be happy. And maybe I would stick with a iMac if they did something like that. But at this point, looking at the rumors and looking at the leaks, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go overkill with it, and they're going to make a iMac Pro XDR, and it's going to be really, really expensive. And if you don't want to spend $10,000 on a computer, they're going to tell you to get a MacBook. So I feel like Apple is kind of pushing me out of the desktop market anyway, because I don't want to buy just another iMac that looks the same, that just has better performance, because performance really isn't an issue for me. Like, it's appreciated that if I get another computer, I would like it to perform a little bit better, but it's not like this isn't cutting it. I can do everything I need to on that. So I want something with a fresh, good-looking design, and currently that's the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I really enjoyed using that thing. I felt bad sending it back because I really liked it. I wanted to keep it, but it just didn't make sense at the time. Cyberplay subscribed at a tier 1 for 16 months. Thank you very much. I don't know what the heck that DM was on Insta. Don't even worry about it. I didn't see it. Thank you anyway. Bezels are so huge and the webcam still sucks. The iMac Pro is like the only Mac with an actually okay webcam. It's 1080p and it looks pretty decent. I mean, it's not amazing, but of all the webcams in Macs, the iMac Pro is definitely the best. If your stock's going well, you can buy the Mac Pro. No, we don't. Our stocks are not. Our investments in the stock market are not for pulling out and selling. Like, we're in the long haul. We're holding for years and years and years and years. We're not like, hey, let's sell this so we can buy something. I use an iMac and screen quality isn't the problem. It's those bezels. Apple might go overkill with something. That's fine already. Just shrink the bezels, please. That's all I ask for in terms of design. That's not all I ask for. Like, if they like the Pro Display XDR, very thin bezels, but I didn't buy it because it's freaking $6,000 just to get it to stand up on its own. So I am not okay with them just shrinking the bezels and going overkill with the price. Like, I just want slim bezels at a reasonable price point. So that's why 16-inch MacBook Pro wins me over. And yeah, it doesn't hurt that I can take it around places. That helps. Do you own Apple stock? I own all the stocks. No. I don't. We don't. No, I'm not. I probably misspoke. We don't really have that huge of a stock catalog. But thank you for the 50 bits. Most of that is just kind of tied up in retirement accounts. I'm ready to riot over the Mac webcams. I opened the one on my Air the other day in the little FaceTime preview and instantly grabbed my iPad Pro. Yeah, I know. It sucks. They all suck. And I know they can be better. I don't buy that argument that it's like, well, the lid of the MacBook is really thin. It's like, then make it thicker. If it's a new product, if it's a new machine coming out and you're changing the design, you can make the lid a little bit thicker and stuff a little bit better camera in there. Come on. You can make it work. If you can stuff 4K cameras and LiDAR into 5.9 millimeter iPads, then you can stuff a 1080p camera into a MacBook lid. If you got to make it a little thicker, make it a little thicker. I don't care. It can be done. I guess that's the one downside of going with the 16-inch MacBook Pro. But honestly, when I do live streams and stuff, I'm mainly using a Blackmagic or something like this. Do you hear Samsung released a new tablet? They're still trying. God bless them. God bless them. They're still trying. I'm surprised the Apple Sheep doesn't have at least one share of stock in Apple. That's not what Apple Sheep means. The fact that they went overkill is part of why the price is so high in the Pro Display. If they just shrink the bezels and go to overkill, the price should be reasonable. You mean don't go overkill? I think that's what you meant to say. Yeah, and not go overkill. Yeah, exactly. I want thin bezels but standard display. Like if they kept the exact same display as the iMac Pro, just with bezels as thin as the 16-inch MacBook Pro, would look gorgeous. Changes with the Apple Watch Series 6 will be boring, but I'll still appreciate it. Yeah, agreed. Definitely. let's see. Well, I got some other projects to work on today, guys, so I'm going to wrap it up there. But I appreciate all the Twitch Primes, all the bit donations. You guys are awesome. And I will work on some more videos for you now. But anyway, this is your Apple Sheep here. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.